Hey, all right, we're going to do a project that's called Black and White with color and layers in it. And so this is going to get you acquainted with Photoshop. It's going to be mind-numbing a little bit because Photoshop is kind of a heavy lift here. So let's go ahead and get through it. Let's first start by opening up Photoshop. Once you are there, let's go ahead now go to a new internet browser. And rather than spending a lot of time finding the perfect image, I'm going to recommend one for you. And I always like to do water droplets on leaf. There we go. Okay, and we're going to find a high resolution image for this one because we don't want it to be pixelated. And the way that we can do that is if we hover our cursor over it, anytime you see anything in the thousands right here in the bottom right, it's going to be large enough, all right? And this one's got a lot of droplets on it, so I'm going to choose this one. Let's see what this one looks like. This one, fairly small, so it's going to be pixelated. So let's err on maybe using this one. I'm literally going to right-click this and do copy image, and then I'm going to bounce over to Photoshop. It's important that we did that in the beginning because I'm going to show you a little cheat. So now when I hit new file, that image is, that right-clicked copied image is saved to what's called my clipboard. And so now when I go to File New, I have an option to create what's called a canvas size in Photoshop, the size of my clipboard. And I'm just going to double click that and voila. And so we're now in the interface of Photoshop at which I can now hit Command V to paste my image in there, and you'll notice that it fits perfectly in there. And so we have our background layer in here. Just ignore that for a moment, and then we have our image layer in here. That's in your layers palette. I'm going to mention this once. Anytime you're missing something from here, you need to go to Layer or Window and then make sure that that is checked, and you'll see that over here. We're going to be living in two areas today, the Layers panel and the Adjustment layer right here. And yeah, and so you're going to quickly learn about Photoshop. I'm going to go and get this little bar out of my face, and so I'm going to go to Window and go to Contextual Taskbar and click that, and so it's out of my face. All right, so let's go over some tools. Hotkey V is your move tool, which is like your black arrow essentially, and you can move things and select things, and that's about it. So it's actually called your move tool, and I call it the VOOV tool because it's Hotkey V. And then your colors right here are a little bit different than they are in Illustrator. You don't have a stroke and a fill, you just have a foreground color and a background color. So right now my foreground color, which means if I were to paint with a brush, is actually going to be that red. And my background color doesn't really do anything. It's just like having, if you're playing Bob Ross for a second and you want to have two colors on your paint palette, you now have a second one up there. And so I can quickly hit X, and now white is in that foreground color, and now I can brush with white. That becomes insanely valuable though when we are using masks, and we're going to use masks today. So this is a non-destructive lesson. So let's acquaint ourselves with spacebar, allows us to move around. Z allows us to zoom in. You can see the pixels, there they are. And so today's name of the game is you need to use Z to zoom in, hand tool, and then B is for brush. And let's make this smaller. My brush options when you hit B are up here, and you probably are just defaulted to a general brush, and that's where we want. So something that's just a round brush, okay? And I'll click off that. And you can see my brush is huge. And so it might be wise to maybe start zoomed out and then hit B. And then what I want you to do is I want you to hold, oops, not that. It's Control on the keyboard with Option, not Command this time. Control Option, and then you just click your mouse. And when you do that, you can see that you've got the insides in there that look red. That would look like if you were to brush. You can see I have a soft edge, big brush, small brush, and then I can get a hard edge right there. And so that just means it's not fuzzy. And so when I paint or brush, it's got that hard edge versus if I create a soft brush, okay, and now we've got that soft edge there, okay? So we're going to want something that's relatively soft, okay? Not too soft, maybe like right there. You can see that number in the middle there that's going up and down on the hardness. Probably going to be chilling right around, I don't know, 50-ish, okay? It's actually at 40. And then I'm going to make it about the size of one of these droplets. And then I'm going to zoom in. That way I don't lose my brush, because when I hit brush, now it's fairly big in the screen, right? So you want your brush to be smaller than the water droplet, because if it's bigger, then you're going to be painting outside of it. And we're actually not painting, and what we're going to be doing is using what's called a mask. And so right now I'm going to hit D, and before I do, I want you to watch this. So we'll both hit D and watch these colors change, D, and that's my default colors. And so I can paint with black, or I can hit X and flip that and paint with white, okay? And Command Z to undo. Now let's go over to our adjustments, and if yours looks in these presets here, click into the single adjustments. I don't actually even know what these are here. New stuff, that's just more click stuff rather than actually being an artist inside this digital area here. So we're going to go to single adjustments and not use the prefab stuff. And let's see. We're going to look for the one that says black and white, and we'll go ahead and click it, okay? And for some weird reason, if you had your background layer selected when you did that, your black and white adjustment layer might be right here. Just why don't you actually all just practice moving this up, down below it, and then up above it. And what that's going to do is it's going to prove that the image is actually still color. This is just like a filter on top of it right here. So the image is still color. So what we're going to do is going to say, you know what, Photoshop, we want the image to be black and white, but only in a few areas. And that's where this thing comes into play. This mask is white, which means it's revealing the black and white adjustment layer. If we mask it off and put areas and make areas black, it's going to say, but don't make it black and white here. And so it's kind of like masking tape. When you put masking tape on your wall where it meets the trim there, you paint your wall and then you lift off the masking tape and you only have paint on the areas that you want it. And so that's kind of what we're doing. So I have black up as my foreground color and I have my mask selected. It's important. My layer might be selected, but my mask is not. Now my mask is selected. And so now when I come over here and brush black on it, I will reveal the excuse me, I'll actually conceal the black and white adjustment layer and we'll see the image behind it. And so what your job is to do is to find a picture, if not this picture, that's got a lot of water droplets in it. And I want you to literally do about half of this. Once you figure it out, and then it's insanely easy. And then after that, then it's just all about this like efficiency, like zooming in, using your hotkeys, adjusting your brush, and painting in here. Now, here's the cool thing about masks is they're non-destructive, because if you're like, okay, I'm on this large water droplet, and you're probably not very smart to be using a small brush like this to just scribble in this area. You should be working smarter, so getting a big area right here. And so let's say you're brushing, oops, and you go outside the brush. You go outside the water droplet right there. Now you could undo it, but then it might undo all of that. Where it might be faster to just keep it there. And if white is concealing and hiding the black and white layer, or black, white will bring it back. And so if I hit X, now I have white up here, and I can now brush that back. And so I'll just show you can hide that back. Hit X, and then now I can show it again. And so masking is a non-destructive way to do some adjustments to your images, and we use it for a lot. And this is your first way to get acquainted in Photoshop and do some local edits, all right? All right, so here's the name of the game. You need to find a picture, if not this picture, that's got kind of a lot of space like this, and you need to do probably 50% of it. And so I'm going to go for gold and just set a goal and try and do a ton of these, maybe if not all of them, or 50% of them, and you just motor through them, okay? Don't make this be about the task. Make this be about building a fluency and connecting your two hands to your brain, to your eyes, to your screen, and so on and so forth. So you have this synchronous thing happening here. And so boom, 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 okay? And I'm just kind of critiquing you on your ability to, oops, hit X. Come on, there we go. And brush that back to stay inside the lines, okay? Once you've done that, go ahead and hit Command S to save this, and this will be saved as a, oops, where is my cloud stuff? For some reason my cloud's not connected. So let's go to save, see what happens. Oh, Photoshop document. And then now we can save it to our cloud documents, okay? All right, and just save it to your cloud documents. Call it black and white with color layers. Black and white with color layers. Okay, and then if you, and then to turn this in, that way you have the Photoshop document, and then to turn it in, I want you to go to File, and in this instance, in Photoshop, we go to Save a Copy. And inside here, we're going to change that from the Photoshop default down to the PDF. So it's Adobe, there it is, Photoshop PDF, and then go ahead and hit, I'll save this to my downloads, hit Save, and then I guess hit OK. It's just throwing a lot of stuff at you. You know what? Crap, I lied. Let's make this a JPEG. So File, Save a Copy, make it a JPEG. Just a small file. So there we go. Select your downloads, hit Save, and just, yeah, sure, that's fine. It's going to be just a small image. So that's a JPEG, okay? That's what you'll turn in. All right. Thanks, y'all.